previous video, I've talked a little bit about the trace and how important it is to use the correct line thickness and so on. Just as important is the rest of your line, your main line, your leader line, your connection to your trace and so on. So in this video, I'm going to analyze that a little bit and tell you what I use when I hunt for bigger catfish. Now your main line braid, of course, you can put a backing underneath, and what I normally do is I put 100 meter of braid on top, and I change that every season. The thickness of this braid, you can decide yourself. I would not recommend thinner than a 30-pound braid for places like Bloemhof or Kalkfontein, those places. If you're going to fish where you know there's smaller fish and no structure, then you can go to a 15-pound or even a 10-pound braid. It gives you a little bit more distance, but I would say a 30, that should be fine. All right, now you're not going directly from the braid to your trace. You first have to, and I've just taken off the old leader here, and I'm going to replace the leader now, and I'm just going to show you the knot that I do here between the main line braid and the leader. The leader that I use is a 65-pound, good quality 65-pound braid. I think that is extremely important. I know that some fish without that, they go, say, take a 40-pound main line and they go from the 40-pound directly on their trace. I don't do that. There's several reasons. And when you lose a few fish, you will find out that you'd rather use a strong leader there. Thing is, if the fish goes into the structure, you've got a 50-pound trace line, and now you come with a knot on your braid on the swivel, and you get that it cuts it off there, that 40 pounds. So the 65-pound just give you that little bit more of abrasion resistance, and also that it's not cut off that easily on trees and structure and rocks and things underneath if the bigger fish move in that structure. Now, so the main problem that many have with the leader is the knot between the main line and the leader. Now, there's different knots. You can use a back-to-back figure of 8 or uni knot, and in some cases that works. I use a FG knot, and I'm just going to show you how I do it between the main line and my braided leader. All right, so here's my 65-pound leader. I don't go heavier than 65-pound because it makes the front end of your setup just too heavy. So 65-pound, I've tried 80, I've tried 50. 65-pound is where I'm at the moment, and it works extremely well for me. It's not too thick, it's strong, and I find that it's totally adequate for me. Right, so let's have a look at the knot itself here. This is an extremely important knot. So you've got your main line, a 30-pound main line of yours, and then you've got your 65-pound leader. Right, so you'll take the 65-pound between your thumb and your finger, and then you'll go with your main line over that, just over that. You'll go with that part underneath, and you'll pull it towards the top again. So you'll pull it into your, underneath your thumb and your finger there. Right, so, and then you take the back one and you go underneath as well, and you pull it like that. Right, and then you do it for the top one as well, underneath, and you pull it to the front again. Right, so if I open up, you will see you must try to keep this leader line straight. So every now and then just pull on the leader line. So this knot, if you get used to it, you can do it very quickly and even in the wind, because you keep this tight between your thumb and your finger there. All right, so now let's do that one again. So there we go, underneath, and just keep that one straight, and I'll pull it in again, and then I'll go with this one underneath, top. I'll just keep that straight, pull it in, and then the top one again underneath to that side, and then the bottom one underneath, and pull it in again. Make sure that this leader of yours is there. Right, so now it looks more or less like this. You don't have to do many wraps with this braid to braid, especially on this thickness. Of course, this will vary if you do this on your main line. I'll show you on the main line, it will be a little bit different. I'll do more wraps there, but I don't do as many wraps when I go the braid to the braid. So now, extremely important, you bind this off, but only once. So you just take that like that, and you go underneath and through that loop, and you just bind it off like that. Only once. This is extremely important. Only once before you pull this knot. Only once. There's it. You can see it's there now. And now I will pull on the knot, and you'll see it will bite into that thicker braid. It will bite into that thicker braid. Don't do that a few times. We'll do that later, but you must first pull this now, and now you can pull on the line, and you will see it will bite. The one braid will bite into the other braid. Don't bind this off at this stage. First pull it. So one bind just to keep it there, and then you just pull it like that, and you make sure it bites into the line. So now I know the knot's not going to slip, and now I can bind it off with the thinner line. Right, so you can do this 5, 6, 7 times. Bind it off like that. And the reason why I like this knot is because it's very smooth through the rod eyes. So you don't hear it through the rod eyes. Alright, so there you've got a very strong knot between your main line and your leader line. Alright, and now you can just cut off the tag ends. You can just do that. A good braid scissor will be handy here. Right, and there you've got your knot. So we've just done the knot between the main line and the leader line. I normally take 4 meters of leader line. Alright, here's the end of the leader line now. So on the end of the leader line, I normally just put a small piece of nylon to the swivel. So I'm going to tie a FG again here on the leader line to the nylon. You can go with your leader directly to the swivel, but sometimes you get some knots there, and it doesn't work that well for me. So I always take a piece of nylon line about this long between the leader, the end of the leader, and the swivel where my trace will be on. So let's do that quickly. So again, here's the main line. In this case, the main line is the piece of nylon line is the thicker one. So we've got the nylon between our thumb and forefinger, and then we go over, under, and pull up again. There's it. And then in this case, the same, over, under, and pull in. Over, under, pull it in. Over, under, pull it in. Like that. So you can see what happens there now. Alright. So we'll go over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and this gets easier as you go on, as you practice this more. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And you can easily do this in the wind on the boat, so it's not a problem at all. Over, under, over, under. The thicker this line of yours, the more of these wraps you must do. So you can see I've got quite a few there already now. So I'm just going to do 1 or 2 more. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And there you can see what's happening at the moment. So then just bind it off once, like that, and pull that there. But now important, before you bind it off more, you must first pull it to see if it bites. If it doesn't bite, it will show here now. Alright, so there you can see it did bite into the nylon line, so there's no way that knot's going to make trouble. So now you can bind it off 5-6 times, just over and through the loop. So this knot is not going to let you down at all. Looks like that. If you bind it off nicely, and my last bind, I will take that 2 times through the loop. 1 time, 2 times through that loop. I'll just make sure it's tight there. And this knot is not going to slip. If it's going to slip, then it's going to slip when you pull it here. But if it bit into that nylon line, it will not slip. So now you can just cut that piece off there, and you can also cut off the excess braid there. Right, and there you've got your knot now between your nylon and your braided leader. So right, just a piece like this, more or less, and I will cut that off. And now we can go to our toffee. So we've already made our trace. So there's our trace, and I will go directly here. There's my braided leader. There's my nylon, piece of nylon, and I will go then onto that number 4 Japan power swivel. Right. 1, 2, wet it, just pull it, and there you've got a perfect setup. So you've got your trace on the one side, and just put in the pin, right, and on the other side you've got your swivel, and we can just cut off that tag end. Then you've got your piece of nylon, then you go onto your leader, and then from there you go onto your main line on your reel. Right guys, I hope this helped you to prepare your setup for your next trip, and I hope you catch that monster. See you next time. Bye bye.